I'm Paul Brasier from Monash University, and my team's the Service Improvement team. Service Improvement is part of the infrastructure group within Monash eSolutions. eSolutions is the IT shared service for the whole university, so we do all the technology, all the AV systems and stuff for the whole university. Our topic today is, excuse me, your microphone's not on, and how we've used ITSI to actually demonstrate and ensure that those important services like our live streaming and our virtual environment are up and operating so as to improve the student experience. But you also hear a common theme: any device, anywhere, anytime, because as we all know, universities are changing to meet the needs and the demands of the student base. Students want to attend university in a lot different ways than what you or I may have done when we were younger. Anyhow, enough about me. I'd like to introduce both Ed and Rashmi, and we'll talk a little bit more about ourselves in a few minutes. First of all, the forward-looking statements that anything we say cannot be used in evidence against us. All right, so we'll take you through, tell you a little bit about Monash, a little bit about our Splunk journey, and then we'll get into some demonstrations as to how we've used ITSI to improve and allow students to consume some of our key services anywhere, anytime.
Thanks, Paul. Can you pass me the clicker, sir?
Sure.
Thank you. As Paul said, I'm Ed Messina, so I run the IT Security and Risk team at Monash University. So I've done that for the last 4.5 years, and I'm proud to be on stage today with Rashmi. She's one of our superstar engineers, working in Paul's team in the ITSI space and on the Splunk platform in general. Little tagline there: born and raised in Nepal, but never been up Mount Everest. I think that's a bit of a niche. But living in Australia since 2015. I've really only started our Splunk journey since 2016, so we're quite the founding team, but let's get into it. Monash University is a relatively young university. We're only about 60 years old, and they've always stood for making a difference in the world and solving the grand global challenges of the day. And with that regard, we rolled out a new marketing campaign last year: if you don't like it, change it. And that was, if you don't like climate change, or if you've got an issue with something in politics, come to Monash University, study it, work out the solution, and we'll take you there. In the IT space, we've taken that on board as well, changing it for the student experience, changing it for the whole digital transformation, being innovative, quicker delivery, continuous delivery, which we'll talk about next. But who are we? We're from Melbourne, Australia. We flew here. It's a bit harder going east coast to west coast to east coast, but we made it. We're a global footprint. We're based in many countries. We have students that we teach in China. We have students that we teach in India, Malaysia, Italy, and South Africa. And they all use our platforms from Australia. All of the shared platforms, all the big platforms, they're all centrally based in Australia, centrally supported by our teams. There's very few support teams on the ground in those other countries. So what sort of people does it take to support that? Well, it takes about 17,500 staff to support about 78,000 students. And that's across the world. We've got to also pay attention to the alumni. So they're people that have graduated that are still remaining in contact with the university. So there's 375,000 of those. So when you've got to have a sort of a lifetime account or an account cycle or a continuous relationship with someone that's graduated when they were 21 through to when they're a VP of a company, when they're 50, 60, or when they're a key contributor to the university's continuous success, there's lots of things that we need to do to put into place. So how does that work with some of the stuff we do with Splunk? Well, was anyone here at Conf 2016 in Orlando? We've got one hand at the back, two at the front. One hand there. I was there. That was my first experience with Splunk. I think we just signed as a customer, Paul. I can't remember.
Yep.
And I remember coming into Orlando at the Walt Disney Resort there, and I was like, what did I just get myself into? Who are all these people wearing hats? What's a Splunker? It was very intense. It was very happening, but it felt like it was just such a driven community. And I think everything that we've heard in the keynotes this week about the vibe and what you get out of it and contacts and networks and peering was like, it really caught me off guard. And I've been to quite a few conferences. Maybe it's just bigger and better in America. Australia doesn't get the bigger conferences, but That really started our Splunk journey, and we wanted to do three things with Splunk. We wanted to enhance the student experience, we wanted to deliver SecOps, and we wanted to enhance IT Ops. So how do we do that? Well, we built a lot of teams around it. We started a community of excellence in 2016. That community of excellence met once a week for an hour and was made up from all different teams across the portfolio, across the IT department, essentially. They all had dedicated people that we trained up, Splunk admins that are still supporting it to this date across all of the IT teams, not just a single centralised team. Paul's team is only 4 people. Does that include you, Paul?
Yep.
Okay, that's a worry. We've got Splunk used all across the business as well. So it's not just the IT teams consuming it, we're consuming it in the library, for example. So a couple of you might be from higher education here. We have portals that give access to scientific journals and research papers that are gated by proxy servers and things like that. From a security perspective, what you'll find is if people used to compromise those accounts, I think it was called the Silent Librarian attack back in 2015, 2016, and they used to scrape all of those journals. Those journals cost money to the university. Those people get us blacklisted, and they blacklist by IP address. And that just means that you have a bad time and your whole university is probably taken offline from the journal. So there's a lot of downtime in that space. And one of the really strong use cases we do from a, security operations and a vendor management and almost a compliance point of view is manage that environment very well. And then we had 22 hours of downtime one year for being blocked from those portals. Touch wood, somewhere in this room, that we haven't had anything near that, not even minutes of downtime since putting this use case in for proactive monitoring of that. There's some really cool examples down the right-hand side, and Paul and Rashmi are about to take you through some really cool demos right now.
Thanks, Ed. Live lecture streaming, we've got a quick video, so we'll roll that and then we'll get into it.
This year, for the first time at Monash, your lectures are available via an interactive live streaming platform. Live streaming allows you to watch, engage, and participate in lectures anywhere and on any device, desktop, laptop, or mobile. Designed to provide students with greater flexibility, lectures can be watched live in real time and reviewed later at your convenience.
Really short, really sweet, but anywhere, anytime, any device. So rather than actually physically attend within the room, they're online. That's what students do these days. The challenge was to provide the same experience when you're online as if you're in the room, to be able to interact with the lecturer. So from an IT point of view, that provided a whole lot of challenges because anyone here who actually has done any AV support in this day, most rooms have lots and lots of bits and pieces that don't work. And they have the hardest bit and piece that sometimes causes issue in the academic, because an academic may want to actually have a quiet chat with the people in the room. If they're in law or something like that, there may be a case that's in the media, so they'll mute their microphone. That's the theme of our today's talk, because you can't do that when you've got people online at home, right? Or in a cafe or anything like that. So we need to be able to detect. So we're using a whole lot of different data points. We're actually able to detect whether or not the HDMI cable is plugged in or whether the microphone's muted, and actually react and respond with the academic at that time. And I'll give you the stat. We track it. 80% of the issues around live streaming are actually caused by the academic muting, right? 80%. So there's a lot of education, those sorts of things. So we can intervene, we can make sure the quality of the session goes out really well. In the old days, before we put this use case in, we used to have our desktop support and our AV support people go into the actual lecture theatres beforehand and check all the systems to make sure it's all working, because it was a new initiative for the university. We wanted to make sure the experience is really positive going out there. Now we don't need to do that. We have 2 people who look after 400 rooms through multiple times of the day. So we can do it at scale. It's really good. Oops. All right, so like all Splunkers, we have multiple sources of data. Everything from data from our Crestron and Fusion systems down to our synthetic monitoring that looks at our student learning management system. So we are monitoring from the student's experience point of view other systems there. We can tell whether or not there's video, both a video feed going out, an audio feed. Anyway, I'll let Rashmi explain a lot more of this because she's one of the people that helped build it.
Thank you, Paul. I'm going to take you through the demo video to explain it in more detail.
It's going.
So this is the glass table for live streaming monitoring, and we have two main services, Panopto and Echo 360, and several KPIs associated with them are synthetic monitoring, audio, visual, signal levels, what is the lecture schedule, etc. So all these KPIs in the glass table, so very high-level information. For example, in the Panopto section, we can see one recorder is disconnected, and we can click and drill down. The drill down takes us to core Splunk dashboard for Panopto recorders. It is a very detailed dashboard. It has all the information in recorder from where the recorder is located, what does the screen preview looks like, what is the recorder schedule. Also, this dashboard is connected to Panopto administration page, where we can troubleshoot and configure each and every recorder. So for our disconnected recorder, when we drill down, this is how it looks in the Panopto administration page. And we can see in the previous screen, it shows it is disconnected and there is no signal, and we can take appropriate action to resolve it. Now going back to our original glass table, in the Echo 360 service side, we can see two of the KPIs are highlighted in yellow or low severity, and all other KPIs look okay. So one of the KPI highlighted as low severity shows two recorders are streaming with no audio, which is a problem. So we can drill down further for those recorders. Similar to Panopto recorders, for Echo 360 also we have a dedicated core Splunk dashboard, and it also contains very detailed information on each recorder, like room, building, and campus information, what is the audio signal level, and what is the next recording schedule. For one of the recorder which was streaming with no audio, we can see that the audio values are 0, and which means the mic is muted. We can either notify the instructor to turn the mic on, or we can remotely turn it on. So what this glass table allows us to do is, rather than having 30 to 40 people waiting for a lecture to start and having to run in a moment's notice, we can now, by 1 or 2 people, can do on-the-ground assessment and have things working even before the lecture starts. So this is a collaborative work between various teams. AV support team provided us with the use cases. They validated and tested the monitoring. They also actively use our glass table and dashboard. Service center is on the ground team. They are responsible to physically go to each and every lecture room and make sure all the devices are working as expected. And right now, after we set up this monitoring, they receive the alerts from Splunk. And we are the Splunk team, and we onboarded data necessary for the monitoring. Also, we set up alerting, we created glass table and dashboards. And finally, research admin ops team, they own the learning management system and the live recording platform. They provided us with all the data necessary for monitoring. Paul will take through the benefits.
All right, so you can obviously see there's some massive productivity gains from that. But most importantly, it's all about the student experience and making it also easier for us to understand what's going on across 400 rooms really quickly. And being able to see it in one glass table is just a magnificent thing that helps us no end. The alerts and stuff that go out, we're currently using a system, we're about to, and I've got to say it because they've just walked into the room for us, but we're about to move over to Victor Ops. So there'll be a lot more information that we can actually give to literally into the hands of the individuals who we ask to go into the room. So they'll know to go focus on a microphone, to focus on a cable, those sorts of things. So the impact gets lessened with each step. Okay, a bit about our Move platform, which is the virtual environment. Yet again, any device, anywhere, anytime. Roll the video.
The best thing about Move for me is that I can study wherever I want and wherever I want on my own computer. It allows me to manage my time better because I don't have to wait around uni or hang around for a computer, and I can access the software at home.
Computers are pervasive. They're everywhere. Every single job in the world involves a computer now. Since every job involves it, education has to involve it as well. Education is the area for the workforce. Because everyone needs to use computers, there's two ways of delivering. You bring your own computer to the university, which means you've got to buy a machine of a spec that's high enough to run the software that we need, or you need to go to a shared computer lab. In those computer labs, there's always people waiting for all the machines, there's always a queue out the door because everybody needs to use them all hours of the day. The Move platform is a way of taking all the tools that we normally find vital in the educational experience and delivering them to a student on any platform at all. So it could be a desktop computer, it could be an iPad, it could be your phone. All the processing is done on the server side or the cloud side. And you don't need power on the machine, it will work on any machine, so you can use it anywhere, anytime.
Thanks, Cliff. As you can see, all these things look really easy from the outset. You know, the student gets on their device. So there's a lot of complexity, and all those people in higher ed know there's complexity in delivering these services to students seamlessly. Yet again, anywhere, anytime, any device. The number of students accessing the system, that's an old figure. The number is growing exponentially. There are the Move platform is also now used as part of the teaching process. We're about to use the Move platform for online electronic assessments as well. So this semester we hope to do something in the vicinity of 80,000 online electronic assessments. So if you're doing electronic online assessments, you can't afford for it to be down. Yet again, a lot of automation, a lot of alerts. ITSI gives us the ability to see things before they happen. So we can intervene so we're not impacting. And it gives us the end-to-end visibility. However, I'll hand back to Rashmi because she's going to take us through.
Let's go and see the demo for Move environment. This is the glass table for Monash virtual environment. It has several components from storefront, NetScaler to database server. And if any of these components is broken, infrastructure team needs to act because it might be impacting a tutorial session, assignment submission, or a study week. It has various KPIs to monitor the status of the components, such as synthetic monitoring, active sessions by faculty, what are the critical services status, and server health. So in this glass table, the KPIs show very high-level information on each component. And again, we can drill down further for each KPI and see detailed information. So let's drill down further to get more information on VDI server's health. This drill down takes us to ITSI Service Analyzer. It is dedicated to Move VDI servers, and it has two sections. Top one gives total health score for the service, and the bottom one is all the KPIs associated to that service. We can see the service health score is good and green. All the KPIs are within normal threshold. But in the total service health score, we can see little exclamation mark on the left, which shows one or more KPIs might be having issue. So in the KPI list, we can see that the KPI having issue is CPU utilization. When we click on that KPI, on the right-hand side, it lists all the entities associated with that KPI, along with the KPI having highest CPU utilization on the top, which breached the threshold. So this single pane of glass can provide complete visibility on all the issues and outages related to Monash virtual environment. For the Monash virtual environment to be working available anywhere, anytime, and any device, we need to be across any issues related to this environment anywhere and anytime, and Splunk and ITSI enable that. Again, this is a collaborative effort between different teams. So we as a Splunk team, we onboarded data in, we created ITSI glass table, set up alerting, and TS infrastructure team, they own the platform, and they receive the alerts when any of the component is broken, and they also actively use the glass table. I'll hand it back to Paul.
Thanks. It's a bit of context. We're about 400 people in IT, more than 100 people on any given day access Splunk. So we've federated it. My team, we're the internal advisors around using the platform, both Splunk and ITSI. Ed's team are the security team with regards, and they use enterprise security, or they're implementing it currently. So one of the first questions some people ask is, well, how many people do you have actually making sure that Splunk's working? We do not have a dedicated Splunk team, and we might get a chance to explain that a little bit later on. Anyhow.
Paul, I think we forgot to mention that we're Splunk Cloud.
Oh yeah, Splunk Cloud helps, by the way, sorry. Sorry, Murray and Dave.
Which means Splunk support our infrastructure.
Correct. Everything we do within the glass tables, we build with the mind that the services we're providing are growing and we have to be able to do them at scale and not have to go and rebuild them. So the more services or the more servers we add from the Move platform point of view, we can scale. Live streaming, if we're going to add more rooms, we've scaled. We've already built the intelligence into the service. All right, some of the other things we're using ITSI for. All right, our printing. Now, universities, we all have green agendas, but anyone in a university knows that if printing stops, yeah, you get some very interesting phone calls. It's probably the politest way I can put it, right?
Has everyone seen ITSI before or used ITSI? Any show of hands? Has anyone used it? Okay, good.
Right, fantastic.
That's good. So this sort of makes sense what's up on the screen? Or is it worth pointing out one example of how it all fits together? We'll breeze through then.
All right. So I'll go back. Yep. All right. So we have in all about 600 applications. However, we have a top 200 applications that we also synthetically monitor. Why do we use so many for synthetics? We need to replicate the end user experience because we might think of all our infrastructures working beautifully, but if we can't replicate what it's like on the outside, it's no use because it might be working well for me when I'm sitting in the university network, but it may not be the same experience outside. So we use ITSI to aggregate 230, I think the figure is now, of those services, and we have alerts against those accordingly, so we know where to focus. The beauty of ITSI also lets us see single pane glass, whether or not more than one service is activated at the same time, and we are building other intelligence into it as we work through. Pure. Monash is a research university and a teaching university. There are some times in the year when research grant submissions have to go through. Our Pure platform is where those grants submissions get logged. Now, woe betide if the Pure system's not working during that period because it becomes a manual process which takes days and days and days and days. And once they've started manual, they can't go automated. So you can imagine that this system has some real value at key times in the year. The ITSI has enabled us to make sure that the system is up, healthy, and working. And yeah, it's worth its weight in gold. Some of the next steps, some of the other things we're doing with Splunk and ITSI. Obviously, more orchestrations as we get better at it, so we can auto-heal. Frevo, which is our online forms. So for HR, for example, and all the forms at any university or any organisation, so the forms, we're doing glass tables, so HR can say how many forms are in the system, where are their bottlenecks, how many forms are in hold, how many pending, how many actually they successfully completed this week. So from a service point of view, it gives us really good insights. Sentiment analysis. Using Splunk and some tools out of AWS, we're actually digitizing calls to our service desk, so we can easily see some of the issues in real time that are actually occurring. So we've got maybe 50 or 60 people on our service desks. Rather than going around and going, something's happening, what are you hearing, you're picking up the words and you're actually seeing what are the key themes. It might be multi-factor is causing issues today, or yeah, and you can see generally is it issues and customers are not happy or are happy. the health of our CCTV security cameras around campus, the health of our emergency help point telephones. Our other big initiative at the moment is Smart City, Smart Campus, of which I'm on one of the steering groups. Splunk, being the data platform, enables us to give some really valuable insights, not just to our IT infrastructure, but there's things our IT infrastructure can tell us about what's happening on campus within the business. Everybody's using Wi-Fi analytics, but you can aggregate that with a whole lot of other information, and you need a really powerful engine to do that. We might open it up to any questions of anybody in the audience.
You had questions prepared, Paul, didn't you, if they didn't ask any?
Am I awesome? Yes. What's the flight time back to Melbourne? Yeah.
The session is being recorded. Did you want to step up to the mic, or we can repeat the question?
No, I'm all right. It's just the CCTV section you have on the screen there. Are you doing any analytics on the video streams, or are you actually...
That's one of the things where it's in the pipeline. So at the moment we're actually uplifting the whole infrastructure point of view. But yes, certainly the analytics, and then you can aggregate that perhaps with Wi-Fi and some other data points, and give a much richer experience. And when you talk about things like safety and stuff like that, it's really important. Yeah.
One of the really interesting things about the CCTV environment at universities is they trying to look at biometrics to open doors and things like that to replace swipe cards or RFID on your phone. Everyone walks around the campus like this looking at their phones, so the cameras up on the roof don't really do very well for biometrics if everyone's looking at their phones down there. So they're trying to get creative with how they look at that and what else we can do in that space as well.
Another one is, and I experienced this last week, we have some really cool buildings, but on cold days or on super hot days, students want to go in and find somewhere to study. Take Wi-Fi and you take camera data and you'll be able to display in real time on a campus map, a wayfinding solution. These are available spaces rather than everybody go to the ones that they think are always free.
Yeah,
So those sorts of things.
We're doing a similar thing at Manchester Met.
Yep.
I know Kurt at Manchester Met has been in touch with you.
My old boss.
Yeah, your old boss. The point you made about the telephone calls coming into Helpline is really interesting as well. I'm looking at it from the other side. I'm looking at keyword analysis in tickets rather than incoming calls, and you get a much clearer picture quickly.
Yep.
Rather than the tickets taking 5 minutes to be logged. So it's really interesting.
Love to touch base with you. We can touch base with between you and Kurt.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Panopto data you're bringing in, is that API calls to the Panopto cloud, or is it something you've got to record that's putting out data via quality, the status, and what you've got sound?
So, Rashmi, do you want to explain where the Panopto data comes in from via API calls or?
So you saw the Panopto administration page, right? So we scrapped all the data using Selenium, and we got the identifier for each recorder and associated information, because in the config screen it shows preview status, screen color, or is there an audio feed coming? So all these can be scrapped from the administration page itself.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
using Selenium.
Yeah.
All right. I'm assuming you're using Selenium to do the lecture monitoring as well. Yeah.
Lecture monitoring, we used API calls, so directly checking the status of each recorder. What is the current status? What is the future status? So if anything is scheduled, or if it is currently recording now. So we are using APIs, and for the location information, we are using public APIs from Echo 360, which gives us information in campus, building, and room. So, and we integrated those bits. Yeah.
Other questions?
So I was looking at some of those glass tables and looking at 200 plus applications and the like. I'm just wondering, correct me if I'm wrong, it's very point solution focused. Have you been able to stitch that together to get a full end-to-end visibility of a service?
Yes, we can on some of them. We're actually building as many as we possibly can out at the present time, but it's a matter of which bit of the elephant do you bite first. And being an agile house, it's like there's a whole lot of projects that have importance. So this year, the focus was on live and also on move. and they took the live platform, ITSI, and all the insights and stuff. That was a 4-month project just to stitch it together and make it to the point that is successful and we can use in production. So yeah, certainly trying to do more and more services from a pure application end-to-end point visibility as well. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, Murray.
Just in relation to, obviously you've been on the journey. Now obviously the applications and services aren't static. They're a dynamic thing, so there's innovation that's occurring all the time. Where now does your monitoring sit as a priority as new services coming on board? Is that coming in right at the front?
Really good question. So where in the food chain, let's call it, does monitoring and fit in? It actually, no service can go into production unless it does have monitoring around it, and that's one of the real key things, because there's no point, when you all know this, when's the most likely time that something's going to go wrong? It's when, we build a lovely new system, something always goes wrong in the first week. So it helps to have the monitoring, you have the insights all through the various periods and stuff like that. And then with Splunk, we can identify really quickly what the issues are and hopefully rectify them in pretty quick time as well.
Just to extend on that, you said you don't have a dedicated Splunk team as such.
Yep.
Are the responsible teams or owners of these services, do they maintain these monitoring themselves, or do they come back to a particular team or so?
Okay, so really good question. The question was, effectively, do they come back to a central team to fix the monitoring, or do they do it themselves? We've templated most of our monitoring, and as part of the growth through the things like the community of excellence, virtually every team has several people who are proficient with Splunk, are familiar with the templating, and are actively using it and updating it. Sometimes they forget to put things in maintenance, but that's just a behavioural thing. So the answer is we've tried to give them the tools that one can use Splunk, but they can also, if they're adding a new service, that they can do it really quickly. Otherwise, if you go back to a central team, you end up with a list as long as your arm, and everybody's thing that they want you to do is so important, so you will never get stuff done. So we've federated. We act as an advice and a consultancy internally, and then if we need to, we contact Splunk, who've been fantastic with regards providing resource and insights and stuff like that as well.
But I think it's also fair to say, the security team, my team, we have a Splunk admin. Paul's team has a couple of Splunk admins. The infrastructure team have a Splunk admin, and they form part of the COE as well as other members. Really early days, we started with 250 gig a day. Now we're up to 2 terabytes a day in the 3-year period. Probably in the first 12 months, we went to 2 terabytes actually. So it's quite self-service for teams that want to use the platform. We organise an upgrade with Splunk Cloud, with Splunk Cloud Ops. Nobody wants the platform to go offline. They're using it all the time, 24/7. It's almost the hardest thing to take offline that's not student-facing in that regard. But, the teams inside rely on it. I think Paul said 100 or so people, concurrent users throughout the day in an IT department that's 400 people. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yep, Mr. Miles.
The adoption there, you went from 2 terabytes. What difference did it in the cloud make?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last bit, Dave.
What difference did being in the cloud make?
For the growth, so being in the cloud enabled us, it was pretty seamless because effectively we agreed with Splunk that there was a need to grow and they were able to spin it up. So it's hosted in AWS, they were able to grow pretty seamlessly to us. So we didn't have to do much our side. The beauty of having it in the cloud, as Ed said, we don't actually have to administer the platform. We have to make sure that all our forwarders and stuff like that and the agents are up to date on our side, but that's pretty much automated most of the time, with the exception of some very old systems that we're trying to kill off. But so having that cloud service enabled that growth very easily. Anyone else? Thank you very much for your time. If you've got any questions, let us know.